London, 1888. The gaslight flickered, casting long, dancing shadows that twisted familiar alleyways into menacing lawns. The air, thick with the cloying stench of coal smoke, horse manure, and the ever-present undercurrent of poverty, hung heavy over Whitechapel. It was a district where survival was a daily, desperate struggle, a labyrinth of overcrowded tenements and grimy pubs, where the line between the living and the dead often blurred into insignificance. Yet, even in this crucible of hardship, a new, chilling terror had begun to stalk the fog-shrouded streets, a terror that would etch itself into the annals of infamy. It began subtly, a whisper of violence, then escalated with a brutality that defied comprehension, a savagery that would shock even the hardened souls accustomed to the grim realities of Victorian London. The city, accustomed to its share of darkness, found itself staring into an abyss it could not fathom, a malevolent force that seemed to materialize from the very shadows it inhabited. This was not merely a crime. It was an affront to order, a primal scream of chaos echoing through the heart of the empire. The very fabric of society felt threatened, its assumed civility peeled away to reveal a raw, terrifying vulnerability. The whispers grew to a roar as the newspapers, ever hungry for sensation, seized upon the unfolding nightmare. They christened him with a moniker that would echo through centuries: Jack the Ripper. His signature, a grotesque artistry of mutilation, spoke of a profound, disturbing rage, a psychological landscape that defied easy categorization. Each dismembered body, discovered in the dim, gaslit corners of the East End, was a gruesome testament to his chilling efficiency and apparent disregard for human life. The police, the stoic guardians of law and order, found themselves outmaneuvered, outmatched, and increasingly desperate. The rudimentary tools of their trade, the fingerprinting that was still in its infancy, the rudimentary forensic analysis, and the reliance on eyewitness accounts often marred by fear and unreliable memory, proved woefully inadequate against an enemy who moved like a ghost through the fog. They were like surgeons attempting to perform delicate operations with blacksmith's tools, facing a foe who seemed to possess an almost supernatural ability to vanish without a trace. The streets, once familiar thoroughfares, became conduits of fear, each darkened doorway a potential ambush, each fleeting figure a suspect. The pressure on Scotland Yard was immense, a suffocating weight of public expectation and media scrutiny. Every failed lead, every missed opportunity, was amplified, dissected, and broadcast to an insatiably curious public. The press, in their quest for readership, became both chroniclers and creators of the Ripper mythos, their lurid illustrations and fabricated accounts fueling a collective hysteria that gripped the nation. Letters, allegedly penned by the killer himself, some boasting of his deeds, others taunting the authorities, flooded the editorial offices, further blurring the lines between fact and fiction. These missives, whether authentic or elaborate hoaxes, served to cement the Ripper's terrifying persona, transforming him from a mere murderer into a shadowy, almost supernatural entity. The fear was palpable, a creeping dread that permeated every stratum of society, from the opulent drawing rooms of Mayfair to the squalid rookeries of Whitechapel. It was a fear born not just of physical violence, but of the unknown, of a darkness that could reside within any man, lurking just beneath the surface of polite society. The case was an unprecedented challenge, a stark illustration of the limitations of nascent investigative techniques against a criminal mind operating beyond the grasp of contemporary understanding. As the grim toll of victims mounted, a dizzying array of suspects emerged, each shadowed by suspicion. The medical profession, with its intimate knowledge of human anatomy, became an immediate focal point. Doctors, surgeons, and even the local barber surgeons were scrutinized. The slaughterhouses of the East End, with their abundance of sharp implements and the pervasive scent of blood, provided another logical, albeit disturbing, nexus of inquiry. Immigrants, scapegoats for societal anxieties, were also cast under suspicion, their foreignness a convenient marker for the unknown. Yet, despite exhaustive investigations, relentless interrogations, and the tireless pursuit of every thread, no single individual could be definitively linked to the heinous crimes. The puzzle pieces refused to align, the meticulously gathered evidence yielding no clear culprit, no irrefutable motive. The investigation became a tangled web of contradictions and dead ends, each path pursued leading back to the same frustrating void of uncertainty. This was not merely a failure of police work. It was a profound commentary on the inherent difficulties of unmasking pure malice when it cloaked itself in anonymity. Even now, over a century later, the enigma endures, a spectral presence in the annals of crime. Modern forensics, armed with advanced DNA analysis applied to preserved artifacts, have revisited the case, unearthed new theories, and pointed fingers at various historical figures. Yet, the identity of Jack the Ripper remains one of history's most persistent and tantalizing unsolved mysteries. The debate rages on, fueled by academic research, amateur sleuthing, and the enduring public fascination with the dark side of human nature. The Ripper's legacy extends far beyond the horrific murders. It stands as a watershed moment, a catalyst for the evolution of criminology, forensic science, and the very nature of journalism. His phantom reign of terror forced a reckoning with the capabilities of law enforcement and the psychology of the criminal mind. He became, and remains, the quintessential symbol of the unsolved crime, a chilling reminder that some darknesses are too profound, too elusive, to ever be fully brought into the light. The ghost of Whitechapel continues to haunt, a testament to the enduring power of mystery and the enduring quest for an answer that may forever remain beyond our grasp. The labyrinthine streets of Whitechapel, far from being mere backdrops, actively contributed to the investigation's miasma of frustration. Their very design, a disorienting warren of narrow, twisting lanes, blind alleys, and overlapping courts, provided an ideal canvas for an elusive perpetrator. This was not the orderly grid of a modern metropolis, but a dense, organic tangle, a testament to centuries of organic, unplanned growth. For the constabulary, navigating this urban maze in the pursuit of a suspect was akin to hunting a phantom in a hall of distorted mirrors. Surveillance, a rudimentary concept even in 1888, was rendered almost impossible. A fleeing figure could melt into the shadows of 100 different passages within moments, leaving little trace for the pursuers. Furthermore, the sheer density of the population meant that any suspicious activity could be easily lost in the constant ebb and flow of thousands of individuals simply trying to survive their daily lives. Beyond the physical geography, the social topography of Whitechapel presented a formidable barrier to the investigation. The district teemed with a transient, often impoverished population, many of whom were deeply distrustful of authority, particularly the police. Centuries of neglect and marginalization had bred a pervasive suspicion of outsiders, and the constabulary, even those assigned to the area, were often viewed as an intrusive, alien force. Consequently, obtaining reliable witness testimony became an arduous, often futile, endeavor. Residents, accustomed to keeping their heads down and their mouths shut, were reluctant to engage with officers, fearing repersuo to their own safety, repercussions from criminals, or simply further entanglement with a system that offered them little in the way of protection or justice. This ingrained reticence created a wall of silence, a chilling complicity born not of guilt, but of self-preservation, effectively shielding the killer from the keen eyes of the law. Moreover, the public's engagement with the case, amplified by the sensationalist press, introduced a disruptive element. The constant dissemination of lurid details, speculative theories, and unverified accounts blurred public perception, creating a confusing din that often drowned out factual reporting. The burgeoning practice of publishing supposed correspondence from the killer, while feeding the public's morbid curiosity, also muddied the investigative waters. Some of these letters, later dismissed as hoaxes, contained details that were not yet public knowledge, leading investigators down fruitless paths as they attempted to discern what was real and what was fabrication. This media-driven narrative, while fueling the legend of Jack the Ripper, actively hindered the methodical work of police detectives, transforming their pursuit of a tangible criminal into a struggle against a burgeoning myth. The collective imagination, inflamed by print, began to conjure a phantom that was perhaps more terrifying than any flesh-and-blood assailant. The investigators themselves, despite their dedication, were constrained by the limited scientific understanding of the era. While rudimentary forensic techniques existed, their application was often crude, their interpretation subjective. The concept of serology, the study of blood serum, was nascent, and the precise analysis of biological traces, now commonplace, was largely unimaginable. This meant that evidence, when found, was often difficult to definitively link to a perpetrator or to exclude other possibilities. The reliance on visual inspection, scent, and the blunt force of intuition, while valuable in experienced hands, lacked the objective certainty provided by modern scientific methods. Consequently, crucial clues might have been overlooked or misinterpreted, their significance lost in the absence of the sophisticated tools needed to unlock their secrets. This technological deficit meant that even when evidence was present, its potential to definitively convict or exonerate was severely limited, contributing to the persistent ambiguity surrounding the crimes. Reflecting on this journey so far, the interwoven complexities of the investigation, once disparate threads, now coalesce into a more discernible, albeit still shadowed, tapestry. The initial shockwaves of violence, felt keenly in the gaslit arteries of the city, have rippled outwards, revealing deeper currents of societal strain and the inherent limitations of even the most determined human endeavor against a force seemingly born of shadow. The very landscape of pursuit, once a mere setting, has revealed itself as an active participant, its dense, unforgiving architecture an accomplice to evasion, its silence is a testament to a profound, ingrained reticence. This intricate dance between hunter and hunted, set against a backdrop that actively conspires against clarity, underscores the profound challenges faced when the tools of observation and deduction grapple with an adversary adept at exploiting the very fissures in the urban and social fabric. The initial torrent of information, much of it amplified and distorted, has begun to settle, leaving behind a residue of critical insight. What once appeared as a chaotic deluge of speculation and conflicting accounts now yields a more focused apprehension of the underlying dynamics at play. The pressure points, both external and internal, that characterize the pursuit, have illuminated not only the formidable obstacles to uncovering truth, but also the intricate interplay between institutional limitations and the often unseen forces shaping public perception. As the dust begins to settle from the tempest of early revelations and subsequent investigative turns, a more sober understanding of the persistent fog obscuring definitive resolution starts to emerge. The echoes of public outcry and media sensationalism, once deafening, now recede, allowing for a clearer perception of the core investigative challenges that remained unyielding. We stand now at a precipice. The accumulated weight of inquiry and the undeniable legacy of the events guiding us toward a singular, resonant understanding. The path forward, though not yet fully illuminated with the stark certainty of absolute answers, is now shaped by a clearer apprehension of the fundamental questions that linger. The convergence of these disparate streams, the societal vulnerabilities exposed, the technological constraints encountered, and the enduring enigma of the perpetrator's elusive nature, creates a palpable sense of anticipation. It is from this vantage point, where the fragmented pieces of a historical puzzle have been meticulously examined, that we prepare to draw a final, compelling inference, one that acknowledges the enduring resonance of this profound historical enigma and its lasting impact. The gaslight, once a beacon of meager illumination against the encroaching Victorian darkness, has long since faded, yet the shadow of Jack the Ripper continues to stretch across the decades, an enduring testament to the profound and persistent nature of mystery. What began as a series of brutal acts, born from the squalid underbelly of Whitechapel, evolved into something far more insidious. A mythologized specter that exposed the fragile underpinnings of societal order and the stark limitations of human understanding in the face of unadulterated malevolence. The inability to definitively name the culprit, to pin a single face to the terror, has not diminished the case's power. Rather, it has amplified it, transforming a historical footnote into a perpetual question mark that continues to probe the depths of human psychology and the very essence of justice. This enduring enigma serves as a potent, if chilling, reminder of our collective vulnerability. The Ripper, in his anonymity, embodied a fear that transcended the immediate threat of physical violence. He represented the disquieting possibility that profound darkness could reside not in some distant, alien other, but within the very fabric of society, cloaked in the guise of the ordinary. The struggle to apprehend him, hampered by the primitive tools of the era and the labyrinthine nature of his chosen hunting grounds, highlights a fundamental truth: that the pursuit of justice is not merely a matter of procedure and evidence, but a complex interplay between intellect, circumstance, and the often unforeseen gaps in human knowledge. The very limitations that defined the original investigation, the lack of advanced forensics, the unreliability of eyewitness accounts, the dense urban anonymity, have, in retrospect, become the cornerstones of the Ripper's enduring legend, proving more effective than any physical deterrent. Ultimately, the tale of Jack the Ripper transcends the sensationalism of crime and the details of a specific historical moment. It speaks to a deeper, more universal human experience: the inherent difficulty in grasping the motivations of those who commit acts of extreme cruelty, and the unsettling acknowledgement that some questions may never yield a satisfactory answer. The lack of a definitive culprit does not signify a failure, but rather an illumination of the boundaries of our understanding, a stark demonstration that the quest for absolute certainty is often an unattainable ideal. The true practice of grappling with such enduring mysteries begins not with the expectation of final pronouncements, but with a commitment to perpetual inquiry, to understanding the forces that shape both the perpetrators of darkness and the societies that bear witness to its ravages. The Ripper's ghost reminds us that the most profound truths often lie not in the answers we find, but in the persistent, resonant questions that continue to haunt us, compelling us to look deeper, to question further, and to perpetually strive for a more complete understanding of the human condition in all its complex and often terrifying manifestations.